Shane Stacks on the radio.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
Shall we play a game?
Why, yes. I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Getting geeky in Little Rock. And today we're live in Little Rock. It's Shane Plays Geek Talk. A journey into the things we love. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. Thanks so much for joining. This is just fun geek talk radio. Today's guest, I've been wanting to have on for a long time. He's almost becoming a personal hero to me in some ways. He's about to join us here in a few minutes. I'll introduce him before he gets on, but we're going to be talking comic books, the passion of a comic book publisher, the kinds of comic books that are out there that aren't from Marvel and DC, and trying to make comic books more affordable and putting comic books out for everybody. And as if anyone has listened to this show for any length of time, they know that that's a personal passion and interest of mine. I love comic books. I'm troubled by not so much. There's some great comic books out there to read, but the trend in the industry for how you get comic books, what they're priced. And then there's one distributor, Diamond, that, I mean, my local comic book shop, who's the sponsor of the show, gets shorted by Diamond all the time. And that's out of the hands of the comic book owner. They don't have any choice. They have to use Diamond. It's just big. It's a monopoly, but the government's basically said it's not big enough for us to mess with, but it is a monopoly. So, but today we're not going to be negative. We're not going to shake our fist at clouds. This is a positive show today. And we're going to talk to somebody who's just super cool, very positive, very nice, very hardworking, who's doing things to, save the comic book industry, if you will. Now, I think in some form or fashion, the comic book industry will always move forward. But it may not move forward in ways that are best for the customer. And with our guest today, and his name is Peter Simeti of Alterna Comics. So excited to have him on. He'll be joining us here in a few minutes. Is doing what he can to get affordable comic books to the masses. Also joining me today, and this is another treat. It's a double treat Saturday here on Shane Plays Geek Talk. Is my friend Justin Mobley.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Justin.
Hello.
So Justin is a fan and but also a friend. And you meet those people, Zach, every now in life. Like when you're like in high school and college, you meet people all the time that are just fun and friends. And then the older you get, the time in between meeting people that you can genuinely, like, this is a buddy, a good friend, dwindles. Well, life sent me Justin about 3 years ago, and we have and he's been educating me on anime and many other things. So, and he's also just a darn nice guy. He's also, if people longtime listeners of the show might recognize the name Mobley from the Mobley Detective Agency.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. So Justin is the head of the Mobley Detective Agency, the lead detective, among other things, and he also did anti-muffin precautions today. Longtime listeners of the show will know that it's not Sal, but Sal, the head of our news team, his grandmother and her dog Muffin.
This is important.
Yeah, will perform operations against the show if I don't banter with Zach.
It's true.
Our hardworking engineer.
It's very true, Zach.
So I actually saw Justin today. He had it looked like the little detector from Ghostbusters where the antenna goes up and down, and he was walking around the building looking for signs of Muffin. So am I to understand that Peter has joined us?
Hey, you hear me?
Yes. Peter.
All right, great.
Man.
How's it going?
Great. I can't tell you how pleased I am to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me on.
I was just giving you an introduction. Oh, you're more than welcome. Welcome to Shane Plays. You have an open invite. I was kind of doing an introduction talking about the state of the comic book industry and what you're doing. And you've become. I'm not trying to embarrass you or anything, but over time you've kind of become a personal hero of mine in the comic book industry. And I know.
Oh, no way! What have I done?
Well, to begin with, you seem to be a genuinely nice guy, and you don't seem to have ego tantrums and stuff like that. So and if there's drama, you try not to be a part of it. You try to treat all your customers with respect, even those that may not like your comics. But you're also, your tagline here from Alterna Comics is bringing back newsprint, affordable prices and comics for everyone. And, folks, again, if you're just now joining, this is Peter Simeti. I'm not going to say the publisher. He's the everything of Alterna Comics. I don't know how he does it because I've been reading up on I don't know how you do it, dude. Do you have like robot doubles like Superman used to use? Do you sleep?
Lack of, You don't sleep much.
Yeah.
You eat when you can.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm just grateful that we've got so many great creators too.
Right.
That do such a fantastic job on all the books. Other than that, it's basically just running a business.
Right.
You don't look at it as anything other than that. I think many people I feel they don't really treat this kind of business as an entrepreneurial kind of thing.
Okay.
Or as the way most small businesses are treated, where it's usually one or two people running everything. But in this case with Alterna, we treat it that way, and there isn't 5-6 people that are running whatever, and then we've got a division of people doing shipping and receiving,
right,
or marketing and advertising and this and that. And that's, I think, one of the reasons too that we can keep our costs so low is that we run the business in a very unique way. But I always just view it as this is my business and I care about it, and this is my livelihood and something that means a lot to me, and I don't really mind doing most of, if not almost everything, other than creating the great books that we have.
Right.
All those other things, I just do it. So it's always weird to me when people are like, "How do you do all that?" Because I'm like, "Well, it's just a job. That's what I do."
Yeah. Well, I will say that. I mean, the attitude is a lot. But I mean, I don't think everybody could juggle that much stuff with panache. I mean, some people are wired different, and I do think maybe you're wired a little bit different from the average bear, because most people would burn out. Or maybe you eat burnout for breakfast, man. I don't know.
I blame all these coffees that I'm always drinking. That's what it is.
Coffees. Well, let me also want to introduce you, Peter. Sitting in with me on the show is my friend Justin Mobley. And do you know
hey, Justin, you're an Alterna reader.
Yes.
I am, yes. You and I spoke in 2018.
Look at that. Right off the bat. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Like, I've known about Alterna Comics for a few years. But Justin, like how every business or fandom has passionate fans that the business succeeds partially because of them. Like Justin is one of those for you. I don't know how many times he's come to me with a big stack of Alterna Comics. He's like, boom. He's like, I got these from a crowdfunding thing, and I want you to take them home to your kid. And by the way, they need more storage, and there's a crowdfunding coming up, and let's jump in on that. Every crowdfunding, he's passionate about what you're doing. And, so I could tell you he is a legit fan. He brought in comics today. We've got, folks, if people are watching live, if you go to the Dave Ellswick Show, not the Shane Plays, but the Dave Ellswick Show Facebook page, there is a live video stream of the studio. Go to the Dave Ellswick Show Facebook page, and we've got this little setup of a lot of Alterna comic books in front of the camera, and I brought in my Alterna Comics hat because a recent Kickstarter, I got the hat and the Team Comics t-shirt. So if people look on the webcam, I'm wearing my Team Comics t-shirt.
Awesome.
Yes, and I'm going to
go.
You know it. And then when I leave here today, I'm going to go to the gym and get on the elliptical, and I'll be like, "Team Comics represent! All you jocks better step back." Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted you to know that Justin. I was like, "Hey, Peter's coming on," and Justin was like, "Come on," and he was like, "Yes." So and he brought comic books, and so he's super enthusiastic. Justin, do you have a favorite Alterna comic?
Oh man, where to start? So
I know you've recommended Unit 44.
Unit 44 really cracks me up. Just the general premise of all these
That's a
top
good one.
secret artifacts that are often a storage containment unit. Somebody forgot to pay the bill, and turns into storage wars and then a race to save the planet.
That's a great premise.
Yeah, it's a funny premise.
I think my favorite is it came out on a Wednesday.
Yeah,
because you get, not only do you get, it's an anthology comic, but you get a lot of like short, interesting stories. But a lot of times you get to preview other comics that might be coming out because they'll give a little snippet. And I've fallen absolutely in love with Legends of Log.
Which I've not read that yet.
Basically, Conan, if Conan was a tree. And he's got a little bluebird pal. And I love Legends of Log. It shouldn't work, but I love it so much. So so I'm looking forward. There's a Legends of Log one-shot coming out next month. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. Yeah. So
that's actually going to become a biannual series where every 6 months we release an issue. It's got some of it came out in a Wednesday stuff compiled in it, but always with a new, previously unpublished issue, but also a new story in there too. So that one was a lot of fun, and I had an inkling that people would like it, but at the same time, their schedule and the way that they create all the stories, it's very sporadic because everybody involved is so busy. So they didn't really have the time commitment for a series. So I figured, okay, well, you know what? Let's just put out these small short stories. And it came out on a Wednesday, and we'll see how people respond to it. I think they'll like it, but we'll see what we can do over time. And we could always eventually compile them. That's what I told Ski Suharski, who is the writer-creator of the book. And he was all about it. So he said, okay, that's great. And I didn't find out about this until later on, but Legends of Log has existed for, I think, 10 to 12 years.
Wow.
And this is the first time it's actually been officially published. He was mostly just self-publishing it the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing, and people really responded, and I'm glad they did. And now it's going to have its own little book. And even the one-shot, I think people are really going to enjoy it because it's got some great cover art, too, by Bob Berry. He does an awesome, awesome job.
So what will happen when the inevitable Log versus Baron Rat showdown happens? Who's going to emerge the victor?
Well, then Log's going to be lucky then that Baron Rat's not a beaver or anything like that. I don't think he's going to pose too much of a threat to him.
Yeah.
But Log is he's a friendly forest fellow, and I think he'd be fine with Baron Rat. I don't think there'd be any conflict there. So maybe they'd be working together to do something.
You go.
Well, we need Lex Luthor to force him to fight, and then Log is going to be laying on his back, and Baron Rat is about to chew through him, and then Log is going to go, Martha, and then Rat's going to say, "What did you say?" And then they're going to become best friends, and they won't fight anymore. No?
That sounds awful.
Zach's in there shaking his head.
Yeah, I think we both face bombed on that one.
I will say, because I like all comic book stuff, I will say that Batman vs. Superman in the Ultimate Edition with more footage in it is a much better movie than the theatrical version, and I'll just leave it at that. So, but I said before you came on, Peter, that today was a positive show. So back to positive stuff. I do want to commend you again for everything you're doing. One of the things I've talked about a lot on the show is that not necessarily because I'm one of those people that believe I've been reading comics since the early 80s, like passionately, and every era of comics has had good comics published. There's never been an era that was totally bad or totally good. But I am more and more troubled with the mainstream comic book industry as a whole. It's sort of pricing itself out. It's that the direct market where you have to work through Diamond and go in the comic book stores. It just like used to, when I was growing up, comics were ubiquitous. You could go to any comic book store, any grocery store, anywhere and get them. Everybody had them. And now it's more limited. It's almost becoming a self-defeating thing that nobody knows how to change without hurting somebody. If you change Diamond, then you hurt all the Diamond people. If you leave it on Diamond, then the comic book store owners continue to get kind of hurt. So, like my local,
I think the easiest solution for that, and this kind of rests squarely on Diamond's shoulders, maybe a little bit on the publishers there. But if Diamond could work on acquiring new clientele to distribute to, and not newer comics, but we have a lot of comics nowadays, Alterna included, that are reprint series that are $1. And if those books could just get out into mass market, maybe Dollar Tree, Five Below,
right.
Grocery stores, even maybe get a pocket placement,
right?
Stuff that can just kind of show that, hey, comics are still around,
right?
Because I'm sure, like myself, you guys, like you had just mentioned, you discovered comic books in many different places, or even if you didn't discover them, you saw them at a lot of different places. And just seeing the product, seeing the characters, the books, all that kind of stuff, it made you want to go, well, what are these all about? And especially if you're a kid and you see those kinds of things, maybe your parents aren't comic readers. Maybe they don't ever go to a place that contains comic book characters or toys or whatever it is. But if you're at the grocery store, if you're at a Dollar Tree, and you see these things and they spark your interest, that's kind of where it all starts. And if we lose that avenue,
right,
where those kids are out and about and they see these things with their parents, because everyone goes, well, it's the internet. You put them on the internet, that's where people are going to go. It's not true. I know we all want to kind of think, the internet offers convenience, but we're thinking about it in the terms of an adult thinking about it, where we already know these things exist. We already like them. We already know what to search for. When you're a kid or someone who's not necessarily a fan yet, you don't really go out of your way to look for that stuff. So you have to see it somewhere, and that's so important to have comics out there. Newsstand stuff, it's an uphill battle. So newsstand is becoming less and less of an avenue, and unfortunately, we found that out the hard way and are pulling out of newsstand this year.
Okay,
but in terms of distribution and expansion in that realm, it really does rest on the publishers, especially the ones that have some clout, getting something going with Diamond and caring enough to say, hey, look, we don't want to impact the comic shops and take the new comics out of the shop, but we do want to have these reprints out and about. So someone who's maybe not a reader already can discover them and see them and then go, hey, I wonder where they have more of these. And then that's when they find out where their local comic shop is. And then that business goes into the comic shop. And that's kind of how it used to work. And I think that's a big reason as to why the comic shops are struggling so much right now.
Well, I know that, like, here's a couple of, these are my observations I've made being a comic book reader since, the early 80s, continuing to buy comics, observing culture, that sort of thing. One, a new technology rarely completely eradicates an old technology or an old distribution system. We still have TV. We still have radio. We still, we're broadcasting on terrestrial radio right now, right? So a lot of times they complement each other rather than replacing each other. Yep. So, and I'm a firm believer in that. So if you can, and the other thing is, during the rise of the comic book store in the 80s, they did their best when you had comic book stores and you had the old methods of I could get it in a convenience store and I could get it. What was
great too is that they offered those back issues that newsstands really didn't carry, because they weren't going to carry 5, 6, 7, 8 or more of the previous issue. It'd usually just be maybe one before, and then that would be it. But the comic shops gave rise because of the fact that they had all those back issue collections. You can catch up on issues you missed out on or discover new series you didn't even know existed.
Right.
And that's what was so great about that. And they really worked in tandem. And I'm feeling like so much of that is missing now.
I feel
it's viewed
that too.
as the newsstand is antiquated, but it's not antiquated. It's comics are getting, I think, lumped into newspaper and magazine sales, which will decline because a lot of the time those things are so topical that with the dawn of the internet and people getting their information immediately, as soon as that newspaper is published the next day, it's already old news.
Right.
So, of course, those things are going to be on a decline, and especially where those companies, too, are trying to put out more and more media immediately, they kind of put themselves out of business in terms of their printed media.
Mm-hmm.
So comic books, though, they don't have that same problem. You can read a comic book that came out 50 years ago and still enjoy that story.
I 100%
so
agree.
The shelf life is totally different.
Not only is it different, but the shelf life can increase in value, you know. You know, like you're talking about the back issues. I mean, like the comic book store, the first time I walked into one, it was like, oh, wow, this is amazing, because not only did they have back issues and premium items like statues or collectibles or whatever, but they had a wider variety of comics on the shelf than you could get at the convenience store. So, I mean, for the majority of my young comic book years, I'd go to the convenience store and Walden Books. And then when I could get to the comic book store, you bet your booty I'd go to the comic book store. So they, like you said, they worked in tandem. It doesn't have to be an either or proposition. So, and one of the reasons that comic books are aging up is because you've made it so that you have to seek it out. You have to go to the comic book store. You have to have the money to go to the comic book store. You have to have the transportation to all of these things. So, you know, it has aged up. And another thing that I don't believe, a lot of people throw this stuff out there, and I personally reject this theory. I don't believe that video games make it so that nobody wants to read comic books. I don't believe that. When I was growing up, and still today, I read comic books and play video games. They're not the same thing. They're not the same brain experience. Like your brain processes, there's a lot of different theories on this out there, but the white space in between panels, your brain interacts with that in a unique way. So in this, you know, using closure to tell the story to yourself in your mind. And you don't engage like that with any other medium. So, you know, you're not going to get the same hit off a video game that you will off reading a comic book. And so
definitely not. And you're not going to have 100% crossover between any of these mediums, between TV, a comic book reader, a video game player. And I think people expect that. And when it doesn't happen, they go, oh, well, that one's eating up all the market share of this. It's like, no, that's a person who they enjoy this. And there's going to be people that enjoy all of them and have the time and the budget for all of them. But I think what happens with a lot of comic readers that end up kind of moving away from comics a bit is when comics don't offer the same value monetarily and with their time. When you pick up a comic book that's like $5 or $6 and you go, I just read this thing in like 5 minutes and it was okay.
Right.
But I can get this video game that costs maybe 10 times the amount and get like 1,000 times the play minutes out of it.
Right.
So it becomes for a lot of people, well, you know what, I'll cut it out. But if it was like a $2 book, you go, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to read comics. I'm still going to pick it up.
Yep.
And it's not too bad of a sacrifice if the story takes 3 issues or so to play out in full. But when you look at that and you go, okay, I'm going to get the full story and it's going to cost me $15 or $20 over the course of several months sometimes, that's when it starts to become an issue for some people. So comics have to stay competitive with that and understand that, you know, we're not just competing with ourselves and other publishers or whatever it is, but we're also competing with other forms of entertainment more so than comic books. And that's the kind of thing where I think as an industry, as publishers and creators, we really have to focus on that.
Well, I think that your pricing, like one of the things that you're doing, you know, you say affordable, bringing back newsprint, affordable prices and comics for everyone. So I want to focus on that a little bit, and then we'll get to a break. And after that, I want to talk about Peter Simeti, not just I want to know how you got, you know, what led you into this, you know, not just the Alterna Comics, but why are you Peter Simeti? How did you end up being a comic book publisher?
A healthy dose of crazy.
You got knocked on the head and woke up in a parallel universe. So, but anyway, the you know, the pricing thing. When I hate to be like this, but I got to be. When I was growing up, almost all comic books, unless they were a premium thing, like, you know, I remember New Teen Titans was one of the first books to go this way. That was kind of a premium thing. Were on newsprint. And I mean, as a kid, on my allowance or whatever money I had, I could buy a lot of comic books, a lot. You know, I think I first started really buying them when they were like 60 cents. That's when I really turned into an avid. And at one point they went up to 75 cents. 75 cents was easy. You got 2 comics for $1.50. You You got 4 comics for $3. I mean, I'd go in with like, whatever my allowance was or and I knew how many comics I could get. Real easy. And then tax, you got to figure out tax. Mm-hmm. But I was fine with them being on newsprint. I don't care if they can survive into the next millennium and a nuclear blast. I really don't care.
They'll all outlive us, that's for sure.
Right. And so, yeah, right? Yeah, they're the roaches of the entertainment industry. No, strike that, Zach. Strike that from the record. I didn't say that. So I'm talking about survivability, people, not quality of companionship. So, and they were on newsprint, and that was fine. And then now everything is printed on this super high deluxe paper and and we're paying, like you said, $3, $4, $5, whatever. I don't want to pay that much for a comic book. I just don't, because 90% of the comic books I read are one and done, or 80% or something.
Yeah, that was a barrier for me growing up in the 90s. I would go to a local Books A Million or some store like that. There were the comics. I saw one I wanted, take it to my parents, and they say, I'm not paying that for that. You're just going to read it and throw it away. Right. Alterna's one of those where if Alterna had been around back then, I would have a whole collection of them. And I would have been into comics a lot earlier.
You would have had the pile of comics that every kid in the 80s had, whether they were quote-unquote into comics or not.
Absolutely.
Just everybody had them. So, Peter, what is the average price for one of your comics right now?
Right now, the average price is $1.50 an issue.
Wallet.
I mean, see, that is a risk anybody can take, right? And I've done this because there are local comic book shops here in Little Rock that carry your books, Peter. And when I go in, if I go into their store and I'm like, well, here's the newest Marvel event of the day, and the next event's going to come next month, and blah blah blah, and they want me to pay $6, or I can try the actual Roger for $1.50, I'm going to go for the actual Roger for $1.50. And that's exactly what I did. I started picking up, because everything I was reading before then, like Justin, I'd hear this beep, beep, and he would bring in a forklift full of Alterna Comics and say, take these home to your son. But the ones I started buying on my own were like, in case you missed it, the actual Roger, it came out on a Wednesday, stuff like that, because the risk was low.
Right.
And now they're probably, I'm like, I'm not getting rid of those. I'm setting those off to the side and keeping those. So, I guess what I'm saying, like all these companies will say like, we're bringing you comic books that you want at affordable prices. No, they're not.
Right.
But Alterna is. They really are. So, and you can mail order them. You can get them from... Why don't we, real brief before we change tactics and heads towards a break, Peter, how can people get Alterna Comics?
Well, first and foremost, I always recommend going to your local comic shop. Let them know about Alterna, see what they have on the shelf. If they don't have anything on the shelf, let them know about us and check us out in the previews catalog and put us on your pull list or pre-order the titles, things like that. That's the best way to get our books. And then the other way is if you unfortunately don't have a local comic shop, which many people don't nowadays, you can go to alternaaccess.com, and we've got everything on there. I think we've got close to 200 items or something at this point. But you can get anything and everything on there. We've got all the issues that we possibly can stock. We've got graphic novels, we've got hats, shirts, etc. But yeah, definitely check out your local comic shop. We even have alternacomics.com/retailers, which features a directory of the comic shops that do carry us. And we have that directory there based on what customers and retailers tell us. So we don't get this information from a distributor or anything like that. This is people, the Alterna faithful, going out of their way to tell us, hey, I got these at my local shop. Make sure to list them and give them some support. So we're more than happy to do that. And I always encourage people to go to their comic shop first. But if they can't, we sell them direct.
Nice. Okay. So, and you just fairly recently overhauled your e-commerce site, right? Wasn't there a big update to that or a change to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's mostly because of the fact that our titles, for one reason or another, were becoming harder and harder to get. A lot of the times stores were under ordering. Were ordering exactly to what was being pulled. So then customers would come in expecting maybe they'll have a couple copies on the shelf and then they wouldn't be there. So they would end up ordering direct from us, and our direct sales business started taking off. We just had it on an Etsy store for a while, and we didn't really get that much traffic on there because most of it was through the shops. But as these things kept selling out over and over again, we kept growing our readership. It became kind of apparent we had to get off of Etsy and set up our own thing. So yeah, the past, I'd say almost a year now, we've had our own setup with our own store, and people have been really liking it. So that's been working out good for us.
Cool. All right. And then I know that you're also recently, you were starting to develop some relationships to get comic books into like convenience stores, but in a very localized region, right? Wasn't there sort of some testing you were doing with that?
Yeah, we were doing a lot of testing with Newsstand, and we had books in Barnes & Noble and Books A Million and even Sheets, which is kind of like a 7-Eleven chain.
I think that's what
we
I'm
had
thinking.
those in there for a while. Yeah, but the Newsstand market, it's changing in ways that we just would rather not be a part of at this point. And in some ways it's unfortunate too, because a lot of these bigger stores are, like I said, they're kind of cutting all their periodicals, and comic books are being lumped into that.
Right.
So it's just unfortunately dying out, even though I wish when we were on Newsstand, and I think this would have made a difference if people that were dying for new distribution avenues, if they saw that we got onto Newsstand, if that idea planted in their own mind, maybe they can get a book or two on Newsstand as well. And if every publisher had done that, I think we could have had another viable place of distribution and purchase and getting new readers in there. But unfortunately, kind of being one of the only, I think it was only us and like two other publishers at the time really on Newsstand trying to fight the good fight.
Right.
We just couldn't keep doing it. It just didn't make sense.
Okay. Well, I know that, it's no secret now, Mitch Breitweiser of I wanted to say Alterna, but Allegiance Arts has announced that they've worked out. It's not directly with Walmart. There's a company that distributes to Walmart, and I'm sure Walmart's involved on the agreement too. But they're trying to get comic books into major retailers like Walmart and others. So we'll see, what happens there. Now it'll be interesting to see because they're not going with newsprint. So it'll be interesting to see. I think from what I've seen of what Allegiance is doing, that they have some very high quality books, but it wouldn't be the same test as if, for example, Alterna, because, it'll be a different pricing structure. So
wouldn't necessarily have that impulse buy price point. Something that's different too for listeners that maybe aren't aware, comic shop sales, when they purchase the comics, it's mostly it's a non-returnable thing.
Right.
So whatever they purchase, the burden to sell it is on them, which is why I try to work so closely with them. We have a buyback program and everything.
Which again is amazing. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, because it's like you're doing everything you can to provide a quality product, but remove the risk, right? And that was another thing between Diamond getting a hold on the market and no longer, because used to comic book stores, could return unsold merchandise. But now, the mainstream publishers like DC and Marvel are somewhat in a nice situation because all they have to do is sell to the comic book owner. And that's their sales. Yeah. When they say we shipped 1 million of whatever, we'd have no idea how many of those made those into actual comic book readers' hands. Yeah, that's
not sell-through numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
So I was going to say something that's great about our buyback program is that it helps both of us, the Alterna and the retailer, because we're not going back to print anymore on single issues. So as we start to sell out of issues, and this has already happened because we work with about 60 or so retailers constantly that buy direct from us. And as we sell out of issues, we're going to need these issues to have on our own site to fill orders that, locally
You've told me about that, Justin. Yeah, you told me about this.
Yeah, you get to do all sorts of logistics.
So it kind of helps. Yeah, we help each other out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love it. All right. Well, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit, but we will come back to talking about Alterna Comics and Peter Simeti and the genuine, real, and, in my opinion, admirable things he's doing to not just to sell comics, but to try to help the comic book fandom and industry in general. Not every, and I get the sense that people's like, it's just, doing a job, but not everybody would do it that way. Not everybody does it that way. So, I do appreciate you very much, Peter, for your approach to this. Because a lot of what you're doing is, for 20 years, I've thought in my heart, like, I wish, how could I make a change? Like, and you're doing a lot of stuff that, I might have ended up trying to do if I ever went that direction. So, again, I hold you in high regard. So real quick, if we don't banter with Zach,
there will be trouble.
There will be trouble, not from Sal, the head of our news team, but from his grandmother and her dog Muffin. And we suspect Muffin's really the ringleader. It's a terrible situation, Peter. We've had transmitter outages, and we've had strange, threatening phone calls, and we've had plants that we thought were employees, but that really wrecked us from the inside. And it's all over this whole Muffin situation, because one day I started talking with Zach on the air, and now as far as Muffin and Sal's grandmother are concerned, I'm not even the show.
Yeah, I think it's Zach Plays.
Yeah, it's Zach Plays, and they just have to put up with everything else to get to Zach. Zach, okay, so here is why Justin is in the office today, other than the fact that he's a big fan of Peter Simeti and Alterna Comics. Now, you dropped a bombshell on me when I guest hosted Dave Ellswick the day after Christmas. I was like, what'd you do for Christmas? And you're like, well, I just hung out with my girlfriend. And the needle went, "Erg!" And everyone went quiet, and the piano stopped playing. And I said, a girlfriend? And you went, yes. So here's the deal, Zach. Can you confirm or deny the existence of a girlfriend?
I can confirm.
Okay.
Confirmed.
Zach has a girlfriend. We love it. Zach, you are a good guy. Now, because you're a good guy and we love you, we have to make sure that this isn't some crazy, we've dubbed it the girlfriend situation. And we have to make sure that this isn't some kind of muffin op. Because you know what happened with Miss Pennyfingers.
Bad times.
And Sal. It was terrible, Zach.
Bad times for the show. So
just, if you see people following you around, or your girlfriend reports strange noises on her telephone, it's what kind of ops are you engaging in, Justin?
We're just patrolling the streets a bit. We're just trying to collect information like you do for any sort of investigation.
It's for your own good, Zach. It's for your own good.
We have reached out to local veterinary clinics, and we are investigating stool all over.
Yeah. Just to see if it matches up to Muffin.
Just to see what's up. Yeah. Just to, we don't even know the breed. I mean, as you've mentioned before,
Muffin is a shadowy figure. Yeah.
I have to go through back channels.
I think so. I think that the girlfriend situation with a possible Black Ops by Muffin. I mean, Peter, could that potentially be a comic book series? I think that. Yeah. Should we just call it the girlfriend situation, or could we call it?
No, it needs a better title than that.
The Mobley Detective Agency. The misadventures of the Mobley Detective Agency. I don't know, but Zach, we got your back, pal. But you have to talk. You can't just sit there and shake your head because I'm going to get attacked by Muffin if you don't talk. So just tell us this: what's the last date you went on with your girlfriend?
It was last week.
Okay, I'm going to back up because you are a man of integrity. So I know that you're not just dating her; you're courting her. So when you came a calling to court, what was the last activity you engaged in? And was there or was there not a chaperone?
No, we were just we went out to eat.
Okay,
that was all.
Wait
a minute.
The
proximity to a dog park?
What was the location of this alleged Chili's?
Yes.
Okay. I've done that before.
Did you see any service animals nearby? Okay.
No.
We got your back, pal. The Mobley Detective Agency is all over it. Did you go see 1917?
Yes, I did.
Did you like it?
I did.
Okay, because Dave was raving about it.
I've been needing to see it. I've heard great things about it.
I bet you Peter, as busy as he is, never gets to see a movie.
Probably not.
Peter, have you seen any movies?
No, I don't even know what movies are. I hear people see them, but
it's a series. It's like a comic book.
I've heard people enjoy them.
Yeah, it's like a comic book in that it's a series of sequential art, but the movie, it's a series of sequential panels that flash by so suddenly as if everything is moving, and usually accompanied by sound. Yeah. Yeah.
That I guess that explains why people are always so upset about them on the Twitter.
on the Twitter. Well, speaking of, and I'll try to bring this up after the break if there's time. Alterna got involved with the movie. So if we have time, but throw out the name on that real quick. What was the name of that movie? The Chair, was it?
The Chair, yep.
Yeah,
yep.
The Chair was a horror movie.
Roddy Piper film.
Roddy Piper.
His last film.
But still, that's very cool, you know?
Well, he's great in it, though. He's great in it.
Yeah. Does he say, I'm here to kick butt or chew bubble gum and I'm all out of bubble gum?
I wanted him to. His character was always having toothpicks.
Okay.
And there's a scene before he gets entangled with someone that he wanted to say the line about toothpicks instead of bubble gum.
Right. That would have been great.
And, unfortunately, it didn't make the final cut.
It didn't make the final cut. All right. The movie biz. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're my bubby. What are you going to do? I tried. You're my bubby. All right, whatever. However agents supposedly talk. I don't know. So, Zach, baby, what's going on over there? You're holding up your finger. You know you're my bubby. Lay it on me.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
For people who don't go to the comic book store, is there an app for Alterna Comics?
An app?
An app, or, right?
Well, they're on Comixology. They're on Comixology.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
Comixology, yes.
Yeah. I have some from Comixology. Yeah. Comixology, baby. All right, Zach, does that take care of you, bubby? Let's do lunch sometime, Zach. Who loves you, baby? We're going to get to a break. He's just looking at me. See, now do you see all the facial expressions I get, Justin? Yeah. Anyway, we're going to get to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Peter Simeti of Alterna Comics and maybe try to get a little bit of insight onto who he is and how he got involved in this crazy thing called comics. When we come back on Shane Plays Geek Talk.
Comic book lovers, visit thewildstars.com today. From the mind of author and comic book industry expert Michael Tierney, it's not just a comic book, it's a comic book novel. The Wild Stars is sci-fi and so much more. Learn the explanations behind UFOs and space gods. This isn't the Twilight Zone. This is the region of the Milky Way galaxy known as the Wild Stars. We guarantee you've never read anything like it. The complete comic book novel took 20 years to tell, with one reviewer noting, the story of the Wild Stars stretches ambitiously across space and time, from small-town murders to the destruction of planets, with every event given multiple layers of meaning. If you haven't read The Wild Stars, you're missing out. Visit thewildstars.com today. Are you a fan of thrilling adventure, daring suspense, and just a touch of romance? Cursova has you covered. Since 2016, Cursova has been publishing the very best in contemporary fantasy and science fiction, retro pulp, and for you D&D gamers, Appendix N style fiction. Based in Little Rock, you can pick up their flagship magazine locally or at Michael Tierney's The Comic Book Store on Treasure Hill Road or Collector's Edition on JFK in North Little Rock. Swing by one of Michael's stores and pick up an issue or find them on Amazon. CIRSOVA, doesn't start with a K, it starts with a C. CIRSOVA, Cursova Magazine. Check them out today. I want to go ahead and throw out some love to Game Goblins. Some goblins are your friends. Game Goblins is Central Arkansas's premier retailer of Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40K, board games, card games, RPGs, miniatures, and hobby accessories. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at GameGoblins.com. That's 501-224-GAME or GameGoblins.com. Conveniently located 1121 South Bowman, right on the corner of Bowman and Canis in West Little Rock, and staffed by friendly employees, Game Goblins has expanded their store size, and there is plenty of room for exciting inventory and tables for play space. You'll like that space because Game Goblins has gaming events every day of the week. For all of your gaming needs, I heartily recommend Game Goblins. Make sure to check out their customer loyalty program that rewards you based on your actual purchases. Game Goblins earns your business and keeps it. First-time customers, mention Shane Plays and receive $10 off your purchase of $50 or more. Tell them Shane Plays sent you. And folks, if you do visit any of my sponsors, please tell them that you hear about them on the show. That helps them know that their advertising money and the relationship we've built is time and money well spent. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/Shane Plays.
Shane Stacks on the radio.
Oh yeah, I love that. Hey, welcome back to Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you just joined us, if you're listening live on today's the 18th, January 18th, on 101.1 FM, and you just joined over the break, we're talking with Peter Simeti, who is the publisher of Alterna Comics, who's just doing a lot of really cool stuff to get comics out there as widespread as possible and as affordable as possible. I'm going to throw out some quick show notes here. I think I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. If I didn't, apologize, but you can always call a live show at 501-823-0965. And I want to extend a special thanks to Peter for joining us live, because he's got his hands full. Let me tell you that. He does a lot of work. And then you can always tweet me at Shane Plays, ShanePlays, with questions or comments or anything like that about the show. If you're listening by podcast or on YouTube or on Krypton Radio or any of the ways the show goes out after the live show, then today's show notes will be up at shaneplays.com. That's ShanePlays.com. Last week's show is out there, or actually it was 2 weeks ago because we ran a replay last week. It's episode 208, Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker and Fandom Gatekeeping. The show does go out as a podcast a few days after the live show on my blog, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Podbean, SoundCloud, YouTube, and more. And last but never, ever, ever, ever least, Shane Plays is carried on Krypton Radio. Krypton Radio is SciFi for your Wi-Fi. KryptonRadio.com. So, yeah, you're over there. Justin's over there. Yeah, my friend Justin Mobley of the Mobley Detective Agency is over there mouthing he's heard it so many times. So, all right. Folks, I also just want to mention, I'll talk about this linked on a future show, but in the show notes will be a link. Christopher Tolkien, who is the son of J.R.R. Tolkien and is responsible for a lot of the extra Tolkien works that we have beyond The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings being out there, has passed away recently. I think he was 95, so he curated the estate. And I'll probably talk about that linked further. I have much love for Tolkien and all things Tolkien. So back to Mr. Peter Simeti. Peter, thanks again for joining. Do you have any, I wanted to give you an opportunity. Do you have any exciting super secret reveals or just things you want to get out there about Alterna? Anything coming in the near future you want to make sure people know about?
Well, very recently we started introducing in the debut, actually, that was on the 15th, the Alterna Giants line, which is 80 plus pagers for $4.99 to about $6.99, depending on how thick the book is. And those contain complete story arcs, as opposed to sometimes Giants will be a bit of a hodgepodge, an anthology kind of a thing. These are kind of like no-frills graphic novels that are basically still just thicker single issues. They're still stapled the same way. They're still on newsprint, and they contain the complete story arc of a series. We had the Mighty Mascots, which is an awesome series, really fun. That came out, and Blood Realm Volume 1 and 2 came out as well. That's been a pretty popular one too, a nice dark fantasy kind of story.
And speaking of Blood Realm, just want to let people know that I believe in what Peter's doing so much with his comics that I'm actually about to become an advertiser as Shane Plays. And I think Blood Realm Volume 3, Issue number 1, there'll be a quarter-page ad in, if I remember right. So, yep, I've got to get my ads in. I'm super excited to be advertising in Alterna. Right. And folks, if you're looking for a good place to advertise, he's extremely reasonable and easy to work with. So, see a full-page ad on the back of... it came out on a Wednesday, and a quarter-page ad inside, I think, Legends of Log and Blood Realm, Volume 3, Number 1. So it's going to be super cool. Collector's item right there. Buy 5, Justin. Buy 5.
Well, right. I'm actually looking at the Alterna All-Star subscription service on the website. I mean, you get, I think it was almost 60 comics for just, $150. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
It's great.
It is great.
Not even. $134.10.
What? 134.10.
Well, in my mind here, Peter.
All right. Well,
and you get some good stuff too with the subscription program. We're making 2020 the year that we really reward the readers and retailers that support us. So with the subscription program, You also get a free shipping coupon code. So anything you order at all from the Alterna site, you get free shipping on it, and it ships with your next monthly bundle.
Wow.
Nice.
So between that and there's a couple other perks you get by being an all-star, you save quite a bit of money on top of the fact that we're already the most affordable publisher in the business. So we're always looking to give back.
The business. So quick question for you. We got about 3.5 minutes left. Radio goes so quick. But I wanted to get a little personal with you if I could. We're not going to have his time to go deep as I wanted, but maybe Peter's like, woo, good. Woo. But what was, do you remember what the first comic book you remember loving is? Maybe not just having, but that you really connected with?
Yeah, I still actually have it. It's a Spectacular Spider-Man issue. It has Spider-Man facing off against Captain America and the Tarantula. And it's funny because apparently, I think I was maybe 3 or 4, however old I was. It features my first coloring work ever because I decided that all of Spider-Man's eyes should be blue.
Oh.
and even that little Spider-Man in the corner.
Yeah.
That was for the direct market. That's all colored in with the appropriate
I know
Spider-Man
exactly what you're
colors.
talking about. Yeah, because the UPC code box for the direct market used to have a picture in it and not the UPC code. All right. So do you remember what the issue number was on that by any chance?
Let me see.
I can't remember.
No, I don't remember off the
my
top of my
either.
head. Let me see. I want to say it's in the 170s.
All right. Well, one other question I had, and then I didn't prepare you for the bad joke of the week, so I apologize in advance, but I'm not responsible for any mental damages. And even if you can, you'll have to talk to my lawyer. But so we're like right now, everybody has kind of a goal, right? And a lot of people probably think, man, like Peter's there. But a lot of times when you talk to people who are, kicking butt, they're like, no, I have a whole goal and I'm only here. Like, where do you see yourself in Alterna right now compared to your total vision and goals?
I think we're compared to my total vision for it.
Yeah.
I'd say we're probably about 20% there.
See what I'm talking about? A lot of people would be surprised by that, but I'm not, because to make stuff happen, you've got to have that kind of vision and goal setting. So, well,
this is our 14th year too. So
yeah.
We're getting there, though. We're getting there.
I love it, man, and I wish you nothing but success. I'm there. I'm in your corner, Peter.
Same.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm totally in your corner, and I know a lot of other people are as well. Zach, how much time we got left? 1 minute. Oh man, here it comes. I got it right here. Bad joke of the week.
Before you do your bad joke, it's Spectacular Spider-Man number 138.
138.
It up, so.
Gotcha.
with modern coloring. So that's a collectible. All right, so here we go. What happens when Batman is late to play baseball with Robin?
I don't know.
There's
happens?
a Wayne delay.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the correct response.
Just happened.
That's the correct response. Peter, thank you so much, folks. Check out Alterna Comics. The tagline is bringing back newsprint, affordable prices, and comics for everyone, and they mean it. Thanks, Peter, for being on, and Justin, thanks for joining us as well. Folks, we'll catch you next time on Shane Plays.
Talk to me.
Great news, Bunky. Mercury Sports Shoes called and People Like Us magazine.
Sports shoes, huh?
What did I tell you, babe? You're a star.
Sorry, Artie. The endorsement thing's really not working for me. But I know someone who might be looking for representation.
Mofir's job to preserve the world. So when Mofir need fast relief from cramping, burning, itching, Mofir always reach for Gloxitol.
Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.